Let's go. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Nicole Bousma and I am the principal and founder of the Australian College of Environmental Studies. Just a brief on how the college established in 1999 as a result of a need to educate people about the health hazards in the built environment. And like so many of my students, my story began with health issues, working as a naturopath and acupuncturist, trying to help patients with these tricky autoimmune related disorders and fatiguing syndromes, and also reproductive problems like myself. I had infertility and 10 miscarriages, and starting to see very strong correlations. Really listening to my patients was the key that changed the way I practiced, because I realized the knowledge and the skills I acquired by becoming an acupuncturist and a naturopath really did not prepare me to treat many of these chronic, multi-morbid, multi-system symptoms that many people present with in everyday clinical practice. So listening to them talk about, well, what do you think of the mold? Or what do you think about the meter panel or the high voltage transmission line? And I'll go, I have no idea about any of that. You know, I spent 8 years at university and also worked in China in 92 in TCM Guangzhou Hospital and doing some postgraduate work. And we just didn't touch on any of that. And, you know, it's good to see there's a bit more traction now in integrated medicine and in health practitioners, etc. But I think it's such a big area. Environmental medicine is just a beast, because it involves so many different hazards that can have dramatic impacts on people's health. And in the end, from looking back over my journey, what I'm seeing is really important in clinical practice for practitioners and doctors, etc., is for them to take a proper environmental exposure history. I think is really the key to identifying these clients who are so sick. And I would say much of the time the root cause or the contributing factors are in the areas where they spend time, which is the built structure, their workplace, their home, their cars, which is often triggering this. Now, feel free at any time to butt in and ask me questions. I'm very happy for you to do that. In fact, you'll probably need to unmute yourself to ask me, because I can't see the chat room as we go. I will have a look at the chat room at the end of the Zoom session, just to make sure I've covered the questions if you haven't asked verbally. But as I said, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask me to clarify anything as I get through the material. All right, so what I'd like to do is just go through the various courses. I just wanted to get an idea. In fact, before I start, I want to find out how many people are interested in the building biology course versus feng shui, or just an individual course like mold testing or EMF testing. If you could just put that in the chat room, please, and give me an idea so I know where to spend more time on tonight's Zoom session for the open day. So I'm getting a few building biology, one mold, a couple of feng shui, EMF testing, electromagnetic fields, yep. So some individual mold testing, EMF testing, a few building biologists, and a couple of feng shui, 3 feng shui by the looks of it. Yep. So I'll start with the building biology and mold and EMFs, and then towards the end I'll get into the feng shui section, which will get, so I have my foot in both camps. I have one foot in the really scientific, you know, what does the scientific evidence say in relation to lead in the home, and, you know, air pollutants, and, you know, dust and allergens and chemicals and electromagnetic fields and mold. And I have one foot in the esoteric at the same time. So we'll sort of end with the feng shui in the last half hour or so, for those who may not be interested in the building biology stuff I start. But hang in there with me, because, you know, you'll see that I'm passionate about everything we teach at the college, because ironically it was me trying to figure out why I had so many miscarriages, and realizing that our lives were exactly the same as the previous occupants. When I started to talk to the neighbours about what was happening, you know, my husband at the time had lost his job and tried to start another job, even though he was a successful businessman prior to coming into and buying our first home in Warrandyte. And the same thing was happening to him as it did to all the other men who'd bought that house previously when I started to talk to the neighbours. So that's how I started to think maybe it's feng shui. I started to walk into people's homes whilst I was working as a naturopath. And that's when I started going, oh my God, there's a meter panel. They're not sleeping. There's mold. They've got asthma. And that's actually when I started to piece together building biology by working as a feng shui consultant and walking into people's homes and seeing these correlations. So feng shui I'm gonna do towards the end of this. All right, so let's start with the mold course, as this is the one that many people, in fact, mold testing is the most common subject and enrolment we get. About 75% of the enrolments we get for mold testing is actually for people doing individual subjects. And a lot of them are restorers, remediators, and industrial hygienists, etc., or people who want to make a difference, to start earning relatively good money, making a difference, enhancing the lives of the community. So the mold testing technician course is the only government accredited course in Australia. It is 150 hours in duration. It consists of 12 weeks of online training. That 12 weeks start on the first day of the Zoom session. So there are 3 days of live Zoom sessions with me and Jeanette, and that's 3 consecutive days. You'll see that on the timetable. I'll go through that later. And that's the first day. Now, many people enroll in mold testing, same with EMF testing, well before the Zoom session, and that just gives you extra time to get through the course materials. Now, what you're going to see is that there's a lot of course materials when it comes to this subject. So you have 3 days online Zoom. We offer it 4 times a year. Then, so you can do that remotely. Then you would come to 2 days of field training. So we now have 2 days of field training with our mold assessments, and they're done in an actual home. So I post on social media who's got a water damaged home, who has symptoms that they think is caused by mold. They contact me. I go through a bit of a history to make sure, A, it's not too bad for my students to go to, but it's sort of bad enough that it's going to be interesting for them to unpack whether this is a water damaged home or not. So we offer that field training in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and the Gold Coast. So it will require you to go to a 2-day field training as part of the mold testing technician course. It also requires 12 weeks of self-directed online training, and that I'll show you the course structure. In fact, I'll log in to the actual subject to give you an idea of the content of the course and what's involved. About 10% of people don't finish this course because they just don't put the time into it. It's not difficult, but there is a lot of reading and there are assessments. Being a vet accredited course means all of our courses are specifically designed to get you ready to work in the industry. And that's what I love about our training, as opposed to my university training where it's a dump of knowledge that may or may not be relevant. Whereas what you're learning in each subject is immediately applicable, because it gives you are required to do assessments like write questionnaires, undertake checklists. So when you go to do an assessment of a water damaged building, you've already got it there. You already have your questionnaire ready to go with the client to ask the relevant questions to make sure that you can conduct an assessment within a timely manner. The report you'll be required to do of the field trip that you go to. So we will provide a very comprehensive template for you to follow and guide you how to write the reports. As I said, many of our building biology reports end up at NCAT or VCAT and even at the Supreme Court when there's disputes with landlords or tenancies, etc., or building. So we make sure that this is going to be a solid report that will assist in that process. Obviously, you need to go to be able to check with whatever state you're in, that jurisdiction, because they'll often have examples of reports that are adequate for court as well. We'll look at things like, well, the main thing you're going to learn in the mold testing course is how to undertake an assessment. Now, it really comes down to 4 very important principles. What I'm going to do is just open up another file. I'll have to stop share and then reshare. Unfortunately, I don't know why Moodle, we have to keep doing this, but anyway, we do. So I'll stop share and reshare once I open this up. What I'm doing now is I'm actually going into the mold testing subject. So when you enroll in a subject course and you hit the enrollment form and put your details in, you'll have a subject pop up in the screen. You'll click on the subject. Normally there's only one there, mold testing. And this is what it's going to look like. So this is our mold testing subject that students enroll into once they have access to the information. So it talks about the outcomes, the aims, the tutor. You have a tutor whose details are here, their phone number and their email address. If you are unable to contact the tutor, then you can ring me anytime. I'm here 5 days a week and can answer any question on any subject. We look at the set text required for the subject. Recommended texts are not compulsory, but you may want to purchase them. We look at the subject overview, so the outcomes, the aims, and the step-by-step is what's required, what knowledge and what skills you will acquire by doing this subject. The assessments, questionnaire, checklist, report. When you click this report, it'll come up with a template to follow to actually write the report. And you'll also be required to undertake an online quiz that is not timed, and you'll have 12 weeks to do. It's really a great way for us to assess that you know what you're doing and that you have actually read the course content. So here is the course content. The manual is incredibly comprehensive. It's updated every 6 months because the data on mold testing is just changing so profoundly all the time. More and more studies coming in the scientific literature on the adverse health effects associated with dampness and its impact on human health. And of course, more technology coming out. Like, you know, I just bought a $900 moisture meter with a telescopic pole. Oh, it won't let me open it, sorry about that. And it's just profound in terms of a game changer. Sorry. Recorded. Sorry about that. I've just lost you. I've just noticed last time I did this with my students, when I went to the website, it did cut out. So I'm going to just have to stay with the mold testing course and not go in, unfortunately. But basically, the manuals are incredibly comprehensive, and they have built-in links to, so you can you'll be accessing actual papers, scientific papers, and also good websites to consolidate the information in the course. So in mold testing, you will learn how to take an exposure history, asking the appropriate questions. You'll identify the appropriate sources of moisture unique to the site. That's the most important thing you do as your aim to conduct an assessment of a water damaged building, is to identify the sources of moisture that support microbial growth, how to moisture map, how to identify, you know, drainage issues, plumbing related problems, a condensation risk, humidity based on the climate, and, you know, identify past water damage to identify and use thermal imaging cameras, moisture meters, all these things to quantify what's going on in the homes from a moisture perspective. You'll also look at how biotoxins could spread throughout the building, so the impact of air pathways like exhaust fans and vents and stairwells and other things like that. Looking at HVAC systems, you'll learn how to test the split system, the air conditioning system. They are very common causes of exposure to mold in many people's buildings because they just don't you know, maintain them and clean them, which they need to be doing at least once or twice a year. You'll learn how to create a sampling plan. So once you've done a visual inspection of the property, once you've used the thermal imaging and moisture mapping and being able to identify where the moisture is in materials, you'll then come up with a sampling plan in order to be able to do swabs or biotapes, or what we call surface samples, or air samples. Now, sampling is expensive because it costs $70, that's your cost, per sample to send that to the lab and get it analysed. So by the time you pick up you know, a swab or a biotape or an air sample or cassette, you want to know and justify why you're doing that sampling in that area. Where is the evidence to support your ability to want to do that? Because it's going to cost the client, you know, at least $1,000 just in testing, let alone the cost in you being there and doing your job. So we'll look at sampling, the pros and cons of everything, all the thermal imaging, you know, the moisture mapping, the limitations of all of those instruments. I constantly reiterate to all my building biologists, the most important tool you bring to a job is you, your knowledge, your capacity to do a good site inspection, a visual inspection, and to smell is very, very important, because that can often be the most important in identifying potential problematic areas within the built environment. So then after you've done the field training, we'll then within a week set up a Zoom session to talk about the lab results. The lab results come within 3 days. So in 7 days' time, we're going to all get up together in the Zoom session and talk about, now that we've done the field training, we've done the site inspection, here are the lab results. How do you interpret this? How do you do it within the context of the client's symptoms, of the moisture mapping, of the air quality results, the psychrometry readings, and of course the lab results? What do they mean? Because they aren't the be all and end all. You'll know which are water damaged molds, how to look at it compared to, say, the Australian mold guidelines, and what our risk assessment is. Developing risk management is really important in building biology, because we need to know, are we dealing with clients who's going to be a pregnant woman and young kids, or people with asthma, allergies, or fatiguing syndrome, or autoimmune disorders? Or are we dealing with a house full of carpenters who are getting pissed every weekend and smoking, and they've got constitutions like an ox? That's very different risk management compared to having vulnerable or susceptible people in the room. So how you assess that based on the lab results and what you pick up, we talk about constantly, because a lot of the work we do is for people who are sensitive, who are the canaries in the mine, where exposure stands, Australian exposure stands are completely not adequate, where the precautionary principles are not considered, especially with electromagnetic fields. So we look at the context of how, in this subject, to conduct an assessment of a water damaged building. When you finish the course, you will receive a certificate that looks like this, a mold testing technician. It means you've completed one subject in the whole course. So you will have a statement of attainment, which is a nationally accredited document to say you have completed conduct a mold testing course with the college, and it comes up with that code 109-13005. In terms of cost, it's $19.95. As I said, that includes this 3-day Zoom session plus 12-week self-directed online training and 2 days of field training. When you enroll, you need to let us know which field days you will go into, and you will find all of this on our website under the timetable. So to get the timetable for any subject, just go up to the top of the website like here, and here you'll see here, timetable, mold testing, and it has all the latest dates and times for that. Yep. So you'll find a lot more of it if you click building biology, that will be generally more up to date. So you can see here our next mold testing course. The Zoom session is the 28th to the 30th of July. That's currently, it's half full, so we still have places available. The field trip in Sydney is on those dates, Melbourne and Perth. So if you're in either of those states, then it'll be conducted there. The next time we'll be running it, and last time this year, will be in October, 3-day Zoom session, followed by Gold Coast, Sydney and Melbourne, 2 days field training. Yeah. Now, we'll only go ahead subject to sufficient numbers. Generally, Sydney, Melbourne nearly always go ahead. The only time they are delayed is because of COVID, if our trainers can't get there. So that's the only time, which means it'll be delayed until such time there's an opening, which unfortunately is sort of what's happening here. So that's the mold testing technician course. Just to finish up their investment, I've talked about what you'll receive. You'll have access to all the course materials. The only books you need to buy are the Healthy Home, Healthy Family book and the IICRC R520 and S520 through the IICRC. Otherwise, everything else is provided. All right, going into the electromagnetic field testing course. This is 2 subjects in the Advanced Diploma of Building Biology. It involves assessing a building for AC magnetic fields and radio frequencies. The reason why we focus on these two is because that's where most of the literature and adverse health effects arising from exposure to these fields are. Since 2002, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified AC magnetic fields as possibly carcinogenic to humans, which was a group 2B. And the reason was because there were significant reviews by Album and Greenland, which showed in their systematic reviews that children who grew up who were exposed to 4 milligauss of this magnetic field growing up in close proximity to high voltage transmission lines, if they were exposed to 4 milligauss or higher, for the first 15 years of their life, their incidence of childhood leukemia doubled. So the distance they're found in the literature, because I've just done my own systematic review and meta-analysis of that as part of my PhD, the distance wasn't so accurate, is actually the reading. So anything above 3 or 4 milligauss, which is a reading we use for AC magnetic fields, over a long period of time, increases the risk for childhood leukemia. Its impact on humans and adults seems to be not as statistically significant, except if it's above 15 milligauss, there is some data to say it could increase risk for breast cancer clusters. So that's magnetic fields. Magnetic fields are created from currents. So that in a home where we get magnetic fields, where it could be problematic is areas where people spend time near them. So if they're sleeping on the other side of the wall of a meter panel or smart meter, if they're sleeping on the other side of the wall of the fridge, so, you know, the bedroom backs up onto the back of the fridge because the motor of the fridge is kicking in, especially at night time. If they're butting up, their beds are butting up against an inverter or a pump that's going on in the middle of the night, then that can be problematic. The other time is in older homes where the electricity has been earthed to the metal water pipes, and then the current is running on the pipe throughout the house, and you don't want to be sleeping above that either. So they're the most common sources. Solar inverters are big problems, meter panels, smart meters, fridges, and ovens for babies that are sleeping during the day if the oven is on. If the cot is against the wall where the oven backs up, that is definitely problematic too. So AC magnetic fields, yep, are created from current, and they are, so you're going to look at how to measure those, what the sources are, and how to reduce exposure when you're doing an assessment. The other one is radio frequencies. Now, radio frequencies are emitted from all your wireless or Wi-Fi enabled devices. The biggest one, of course, is your cell phone. And the reason why your cell phone is the most problematic is it's because it's closest to your person. Now, people will ask you to come in because they have concerns about 5G and mobile phone base stations and smart meters, rightly so. But the reality is their greatest exposures are the devices closest to their person. So all our building biologists are trained and to show that the highest levels of radio frequencies are the devices that you keep closest to you. So we work from this, we work from the person out. We look at how they use their cell phone. If they're using them on one side of the head, you know, for a minimum of 1 or 2 hours a day for more than 10 years, their incidence of gliomas and gliomoblastomas are more than double, according to Leonard Hardell's research. There's been significant systematic reviews and meta-analysis to show there's a significant link now between cell phone use that's used against the ear on one side of the head for a minimum of 10 years for at least an hour or two a day, and a more than doubling the risks for gliomas. I'm also talking about cordless phones. They are the same risk as cell phones because they are radio frequencies they're using between the handset and the base station. So as building biologists, you'll train or EMF testing technician to look at what that is actually emitting. And the problem with cordless phones and cell phones, of course, is that they're in the near field. So they're within the 4 wavelengths, which means that they have the highest biological effects. Now, one of the most profound studies that came out that no one's really talking about is one by Dimitri Papadopoulos in Athens. And in 2019, he published a study where he was able to show that research wireless devices, that their variable nature of wireless devices is actually causing most of the biological harm, i.e. oxidative stress, production of free radicals, degranulation of mast cells, DNA, single and double DNA strand breaks, heat shock proteins, etc. So we know how they act at a cellular level. He was able to show by doing a systematic review that the problem is that many of all the devices we're using are highly variable in terms of their spikes and their frequency and their variability in terms of what frequency they're at and how often they're pulsing. The pulse nature of these devices and their variability appears to cause most harm. Now, the interesting thing about the scientific literature and many of the papers in PubMed and in the medical databases are actually conducted in sleep labs or controlled conditions where they remove the harmonics and resonances that are causing the variability, which actually questions most of their research. And often they show there's no biological harm. Now, what we need to do is rewrite the exposure standards, because the exposure standards are based on many of these research papers and studies that are actually not valid, because we know that they don't create this variable nature that actually causes the harm. So many of the studies in sleep labs where they control, harmonics and resonances and all these other issues, which are potentially causing the problem, are actually not useful. I'm about to publish a study on the impact of a baby monitor in real life conditions in people's homes on sleep in healthy adults, and it's statistically significant. So even though the heart rate variability didn't reach statistical significance, there were changes that if we had higher sample size, because the study was underpowered, if we had a greater sample size, it was likely to reach statistical significance. So, but there's no study that I could find in the literature that was done in a real scenario, because science is so busy trying to say one cause, one effect, get rid of all the confounding factors, that it's actually missed the very thing causing the biological impacts. So this is the interesting thing, that, what we're using and what we allow our children to use, our iPads, our Wi-Fi enabled digital devices and all these new toys and etc., is causing far more biological harm than what the studies that are controlled in sleep labs, etc., are actually demonstrating. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Radio frequencies emitted from wireless devices were classified as a Group 2B possible human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer on the 31st of May 2011, because they could no longer ignore the mounting evidence that cell phone use was correlating with neuromas, acoustic neuromas, and gliomas. And there's certainly so much evidence now that to me, it's clear. There's so many systematic reviews and meta-analysis that has been done on this that it's really clear that there is definitely a connection, which is why no one, and that's why even your phone provider says, don't put this near your person, based on the 4-dog defense. I warned you not to buy my product and warned you not to put it near your person, which actually questions whether this is fit for purpose. So here's something that you have to do this, but they're warning you not to do it based on the 4-dog defense, which you'll read about in my book, how industry get away with selling stuff they know could be hazardous, and sending you regular messages. Like, I've had quite a few from Telstra. My mum rang me the other day and she said, oh, there's a message on my phone about the harm that it could cause and I shouldn't put it near my head. She goes, well, how am I meant to use it then, Cole? Like, yeah, exactly. So, they can't sue. And of course, the telecommunications cannot get insurance from the largest insurance companies in the world. Swiss Re and Lloyd's of London refuse to insure the telecommunications. So the people who will be impacted is all the Australian families who have shareholders in Telstra, because they can't get insurance, so they'll have to wear it themselves. So they protect themselves by warning you not to put it near your person in the first place. So you've got this incredible dialogue going on, that there's significant evidence that radio frequencies, we know it suppresses melatonin, we know it emits Bluetooth. Melatonin is the most important anti-cancer hormone we have. It sets your circadian rhythm. In fact, when melatonin drops about 9, 10, 11, 12, that's when puberty starts. That's the key that starts puberty. And the quickest way to suppress melatonin is to just use these in blue, the blue light from these devices and the radio frequencies all the time. Now, 2 days ago when I was reading the Herald Sun, the average Australian kid uses their digital devices 5 hours a day now. It's out of control, out of control. And, you know, there has been no generation that has been exposed to this from the cradle to the grave like there is now. Our children are the guinea pigs. And if you look at the Russian research, and especially the Russian Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection Organization, who are their authority body on electromagnetic fields, they have raised serious concerns about the use of wireless devices for years, because they were at the forefront of this microwave technology in the Cold War. And, you know, I've been using this technology in warfare and, you know, bombarding embassies with radio frequencies for years. And they are warning that this is a problem. They have actually in their report stated very clearly they expect a tsunami of young people with Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's as a result of their exposures to RF. So, you know, that is definitely problematic, whereas our authorities are a complete denial that there's a problem. They're still saying that unless it hits your brain, it doesn't cause adverse health effects. Well, you know, there's actually a mountain of data and systematic reviews and meta-analysis to contradict that now. All right, so radio frequencies are emitted from your wireless devices. I love my technology. I use my phone, but I know how to use it in a way that significantly reduces my exposure. So I am making an informed choice. The problem I have is that most people out there don't make informed choices because they assume wrongly. They've gone to the Telstra store, they've bought it. So someone must have tested it and made it safe. No, actually not at all. Don't press go and don't collect $200. They are not. So that's the problem. My job is to train the building biologists to help Australians make informed choices about the products they buy because they don't know. We can use this technology, but we need to use it. We have to use it in a different way. You know, keep it away from our head, use text and SMS instead of calling, having hardwired options in the house, not Wi-Fi. If you have to have Wi-Fi, turn it off at night, so it's not impacting your sleep. Those waves are tricking your body into thinking it's daytime instead of nighttime. And that has massive consequences for insomnia, massive. The latest parliamentary inquiry in 2018 on insomnia showed 40% of Australian adults don't sleep. And I knew about that because, you know, I'm trying to get from my sample for my randomized controlled trial, healthy adults that sleep that were prepared not to use their digital devices for an hour. It was bloody hard because so many adults don't sleep very well at all. And of course, sleep has massive downstream effects. If you have insomnia, in fact, almost every chronic disease I've looked at has insomnia as part of its presentation. If the physician doesn't get the client to sleep well, you will never get that patient back to health. That's just the rule of thumb. And as a building biologist, if people have insomnia, the first thing I look at is EMFs and then mold. EMFs first, because I know it's the quickest thing that can trigger and impact circadian rhythms and, of course, sleep. Now, in terms of the course, there are two subjects involved. You have electricity fundamentals. This is an online subject that you must complete before you're eligible to do electrobiology. It is only one online quiz. That's all that's involved, and it's not timed. You've got 12 weeks to complete it. If you're sort of EMF savvy, I've had someone complete it within 4 weeks. Most people 6 to 12 weeks. So it's online. We assume no prior knowledge. So don't freak out. Remember, 75% of our building biologists are middle-aged women in building and construction. The only industry in building construction that's mainly women. You know, getting out there and making a difference. I'm not anti-men, by the way. So electricity fundamentals you need to do as an online subject before you're eligible to enroll in electrobiology. The electrobiology has the same course structure as mold. It's 3 days of online training with Zoom with Cara and I. So you just log in and then we'll have 3 consecutive days, 9:15 to 5. So it's pretty full on. We have about a half-hour break in the middle and a couple of short breaks. And, you know, it's what I love about having Zoom sessions as opposed to actually being in a community centre with students is I can show you videos, I can show you, you know, online platforms and audio tapes and interviews with people. And it's actually quite interactive, which what I love about the online platform. It's followed by 12 weeks of self-directed online learning and 2 days of on-site field training. The on-site field training is held only in Sydney and Melbourne. So if you go to the college website and click timetables down to building biology, just click on building biology and you'll see for the timetable building biology, the next electrobiology session will be in February. Now just go like that if you can see the timetable, building biology. Yep. So you can see the electrobiology course will be, we've just had it in May. So the people who've done it in May are coming June, July. We've just done it last week here in Melbourne. July will be Sydney. So the next intake for electrobiology will be the 2nd to the 4th of February. That'll be the Zoom session. And then you either come to Sydney in the 18th and 19th of Feb, or Melbourne 28th of Feb and 1st of March. In order for you to do electrobiology, you must have completed electricity before you come in February. So this is a good time to get started on that, to make sure you finished it before you enroll in February to the electrobiology. You can enroll in electrobiology once you finish electricity, and you may enroll in electrobiology in November or even October if you finished electricity, and then you'll have months and months to get through all the online stuff, because your official start date won't start until the 2nd of Feb, but you can access all the course materials beforehand if you pay for the subject. So that's going to give you lots and lots of time to get through all the videos and the recordings and the manual, which is really comprehensive, etc. So if you're planning on doing EMF testing, then you need to enroll and complete electricity fundamentals first before you come in February. I think that's about it for EMF testing. Assessments are questionnaire, checklist, and report. Are the assessment for electrobiology again. So producing a questionnaire and a checklist to conduct the assessment, and then of course a report. When you finish this course, you'll be provided with a statement of attainment and a certificate to say you're an EMF testing technician. Yep. Of course, the subjects you do in mould and EMF testing technician are all part of the building biology course. So going into the building biology course, it's an advanced diploma of building biology. It is a 2-year full-time, 4-year part-time course. There are 12 subjects in the course. It was recently re-accredited through the Australian Skills Quality Authority. We are required to do this every 5 years. In short, building biology is the evaluation of health hazards in the built environment, from allergens, chemicals, and electromagnetic fields, and provide strategies to address exposure and provide recommendations to reduce exposure, and if not, get rid of those things. It's the only nationally accredited course of its kind in Australia. At the moment, there's no government funding available for the advanced diploma. We used to have Austudy. They pulled that funding when they got rid of a lot of RTOs, etc., and really reduced the funding from the vet sector. I've just come across a website to see in the Act that the Advanced Diploma of Building Biology has been approved for a $10,000 student loan through the government, but they failed to inform me that I need to apply to be able to deliver that, and to do that is quite costly because I need to employ someone else to do all the data management. So we are looking at being able to access this for our students. It's not that they give this to you to do the course, you have to pay it back. It's like the equivalent to HECS at university. But I need to look into it in terms of the cost to be able to deliver it. So I'm hoping maybe by next year or mid next year that this may be available, once I can get an idea of what the running costs of this to deliver it to be able to do it. I'm also looking at creating a Bachelor of Building Biology and becoming a higher education provider. So that will involve more research subjects. My aim is that by the time a student has completed a Bachelor of Building Biology, they've actually written a paper that's been published in PubMed in order to escalate the industry, to get building biology out there, and the college. So I'll be training you how to conduct a systematic review. I have a PhD graduate who's very skilled at this, who is currently writing the subjects on how to critique scientific papers, which is an important skill to have, and more importantly, how to write a systematic review in order to escalate our industry. So we'll have a couple of research subjects there. Career opportunities, it's just going from strength to strength. Some of my building biologists don't even advertise because they've got too much work. Many of them are booked at least 4 weeks ahead. And many of them, as I said, 3/4 of them are women who've got kids and have to do kid runs, etc. And, one recently, her husband, who worked for Telstra for 30 years, quit his job because she earns more than he does, and he decided to retire. So he writes her reports now, so that's nice to hear. The demand has definitely grown as a result of parliamentary inquiry into mould and electromagnetic radiation. and certainly people's concerns about 5G. Entry requirements. You need to be, I would say, at least 25. I do talk a lot of people out of the course if they're under 25, unless they're incredibly mature, because you're dealing with significant issues like families are about to fall apart and marriages are often about to break down because one's got mild illness and the other one doesn't know what she's talking about because their gene profile is different. So, you know, I think having a life experience, having kids or being in a relationship, you know, I think that's, your life experience is so important when you're dealing with, you know, tragedy and you're about to tell them that this house may not be habitable. That's rare, but it does happen. And you want significant evidence to justify that. You need empathy to be building biologists because you've got people who are so sick, the kids have been sick so long. And, you know, it's an amazingly humble and incredibly beautiful industry to work with. But, you know, you really need the skills of diplomacy and empathy to be a good building biologist. Yeah. You don't need any background in electricity, like you don't need to be an electrician or a plumber or a trader or builder to do this course. Most people aren't. They come in cold. They're not even health practitioners. We do have maybe 10% of building designers or from the building industry or architects and draftspeople, maybe another 15% naturopaths or health practitioners, but at least, you know, 70% or so are people who don't have any background in this, and we assume absolutely no knowledge. So don't worry about that at all. As long as you've got the time to complete the course and you're passionate about it and you're dedicated, then you'll get through. No problem at all. We'll encourage you to get through. Our trainers can't fail you as long as you make an effort. The only time people don't get through subjects is because they've run out of time or they didn't put the time into it because life happened. Yeah. Once you finish the course, you become affiliated with the Australasian Society of Building Biologists. Please have a look at their website. They're an amazing group of people who are incredibly dedicated to their craft, who've done amazing work. The website's great. They do a lot in enhancing the profile to the public, and the insurances they've negotiated are very reasonable, and you know, have some really good talks, etc., newsletters. So if you become a student, building biology student, or even just EMF testing or mold testing technician, you can get cheaper insurances through the ASBB and access to the newsletters. We also have a Facebook page that we recently started for our students, so they can intermingle and ask questions and liaise about, you know, who's a good electrician in the area, etc. So there's closed Facebook group for just our students, as well as one for our graduates. Course structure, as I mentioned, just click timetables at the top to get the course structure. The course consists of 12 subjects. Advanced mold testing is an elective that it will be offered as of next year. We're still writing that. Obviously, you need to do mold testing before you do that. Air pollution, air sampling. Air sampling isn't a core, it's a core and it's on campus. So you need to do live sessions with that. So we have 4 on-campus subjects. They are air sampling, electrobiology, geomancy, mold testing, and field training. In your last year of building biology, you are required to do 4 days of field training, and that may be piggybacking with a building biologist in your state that has been approved through the college to do this training. It can be multiple building biologists, or you may come to extra field trips as part of the training we're already conducting at the college and assist the trainer. So the reason why we've done this is because often we find students doing mold testing or electrobiology testing in their first year, and by the 4th year, if they haven't been working in that industry, they've forgotten a lot of their skills. So they come and do the field training again with us in order to make sure that they're up to date. They've got the latest manuals that they can access as part of that field training. So that's only done in the very last day. Yep. Excuse me for one moment. All right, so research methods, you're learning. We've just about updated research methods. It's actually the one I'd suggest you start with: how to reference, how to write an essay, and how to critique a scientific paper. So we're going to give you a whole lot of papers. We're going to get you to find all the best websites on environmental medicine and environmental health in the world. So by getting that in the first part of the course, it's going to make it so much easier when you do the subject, because you'll know where the best EMF sites are and the best mold sites are. So we're just at the verge of finishing research methods and updating it. and it will be a really good one to start with. Water pollution is going to look at why everyone needs a water filter. What are the contaminants in your water filtration, in the water system, in the mains distribution system, in bore or tank water? What are all the pros and cons? What are the hazards? How do we test? And more importantly, which filters do what? Because there's a lot of BS out there on social media about water filtration. And there doesn't need to be, because it's very scientific. It's very straightforward in terms of the filter systems. As an elective, you choose one elective. You might go advanced mold testing or business skills. If you haven't run a business before, this is a good one. It's a lot of work involved in business skills, because you'll be writing a business plan and conducting market research. Feng Shui foundations, you might choose instead. Geomancy, which is dowsing for geopathic stress. So you have an option which of those electives you want to do. If you want more information about the subject, just click on the download here, the learning guide. Each of these learning guides is about 6 to 8 pages in length. It provides the outcomes, the aims, and the assessments for the subject. So it gives you a lot more information there. Yep. The books required is about my book, Healthy Home, Healthy Families, a set text in 4 subjects. Electrical Principles is important for electricity fundamentals, and the other 2 are the IICSC for mold. I wouldn't bother getting those books until you do a subject that requires you to get those books. You aren't required to buy any equipment because we will provide that at all the field training. All up, the investment is $14,500. We don't take payment up front. You just pay as you enroll in each subject. Most subjects are $795, and the on-campus subjects are $1995. Now, the on-campus subjects will go up as of next year. We haven't yet decided what that will be, but it will go up. The on-campus subjects will stay at $1995. Part payment options do exist for on-campus subjects. So we have the quicker pay system. So you can pay in 6 installments through that. There is a $50 charge per subject that you do the part payment options with. So we do have some options there. All right. So that's the building biology course. Now, what I'm going to do is just see in terms of the chat what's going on, if there's any questions before I move on to Feng Shui. If you're not interested in Feng Shui, then you could exit now, your course. So I'm just going to go through a few of these. Regarding mold testing info, we'll contact you tomorrow. Okay. I need to get to sleep. Okay, fair enough. Sleep disorder here. Yeah. Russia banned microwave ovens. Yes, they did. And they tried to do it internationally in '74, but that didn't go ahead because of international trade laws. Do we have access to databases to find literature? No, you don't, unfortunately. I don't have the setup or the cost to do that, but Google Scholar will give you a lot of information, and most of the most important papers we give you will be in the subject. So you don't have to worry about it. If it's an important paper, it'll be in the subject as part of the course. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay. I think that's it in terms of chat. Any other questions before I go on to Feng Shui? Yes, if you do the mold testing course early in the course, you can become a mold testing technician. Providing you've got your gear, you could be accredited with the ASBB and work as a mold testing technician. Obviously, you can't call yourself a building biologist until you've done the advanced diploma. However, yes, you can, and we encourage you to work as a mold testing technician once you've done the course, to make sure you get your skills up to date. Definitely. Same with EMF testing technician. You can work as an EMF testing technician. Yeah. Okay, there's one other one here. With the online Zoom sessions for 3 days, what happens if you have work commitments and find it hard to attend on the designated days? You need to attend the 3 days. It is compulsory that you attend the 3-day Zoom sessions. If, for example, you've got young ones, then you will be muted from time to time. I mean, you will be muted most of the time, but I do need you to actively engage as evidence that you were there. We will need to be able to see you at times to make sure that you were there, because that's part of the requirement. So you can't just miss a day. It is compulsory. But yeah, if you've got to attend your kids, you can put yourself on mute so we can't hear what's going on. That's cool. Yeah. All right, that's all the questions for building biology, mold and EMF testing. I'm going to go now into the Feng Shui course, the Cert 4 in Feng Shui. Now, Feng Shui, when I look at Feng Shui, people go, oh, it's really esoteric. And in some ways it definitely is. But, you know, when I walk into a home, you know instantly, is this a house or a home? Why is it in a group of shops that one shop comes up for lease time and time again, that no matter what business moves in there, they go bust and the shop comes up for lease? That's the study of Feng Shui. Why is it that in a straight road, there's an accident, there's a black spot where people are more likely to have accidents? That's the study of Feng Shui. Why is it that in some homes, you're more likely to argue in a certain part of the house? That's the study of Feng Shui. Why is it that in some homes that you find some people are more likely to divorce or separate, especially in country towns? You know, when I was doing assessments in country towns, I'd ask, are you aware of any of the divorce homes? And often people go, oh yeah, that's that home in that street. You know, it's like, well, regardless of who moved in, they tended to divorce. That's the study of Feng Shui. Why is it that the color watermelon pink, when it's painted in prison cells, can significantly and dramatically reduce the crime rate within the prison? That's the study of Feng Shui. Feng Shui is really putting into words what you pick up intuitively when you walk into a space. You know, when people have an argument and you just walk in and you go, the air cuts like a knife. That's the study of Feng Shui. It's like the intangible as to why this space, why you can't study in that space, or why you are really motivated, or why you're constantly distracted sitting in that spot. That's the study of Feng Shui. You know, it's based on very basic principles of energy and design, based on traditional Chinese medicine. It's actually one of the limbs of traditional Chinese medicine, and looks at how space can impact people, especially psychologically and even potentially spiritually. The Feng Shui course consists the only government accredited course in Australia. It consists of 6 subjects. The subjects are advanced Feng Shui, which you can only do once you've done Feng Shui foundations. The Feng Shui foundation subject, most people start with that one. It is online, and it looks at the impact of form and compass school. It looks at 5-element theory, the concept of qi and pathway and qi flow. But Feng Shui isn't something that happens to you. Feng Shui, we teach, is really a reflection of you, that you're always in the right house at the right time to reflect your stuff, that there is no such thing as bad Feng Shui, that the vibration of the home and the objects within it influence you in either very positive or could even be negative ways. For example, when I'm doing a Feng Shui audit, I'd say, when I don't do many, in fact, I hardly do any audits now, but because I'm mainly doing building biology, is there anything in the house, Mrs. Smith? Can you, or I might douse, and before I talk to the client at the end of the assessment, I'll ask my rods, is there anything in the house or object that I need to address? So I might, with my pendulum on the floor plane, go, yep, it's in this bedroom. And then with my dowsing rod goes, okay, there's an object here. Mrs. Smith, can you tell me about this particular object? And she'll go, oh, yeah, that was given to me by my ex mother-in-law. And yeah, I said, well, every time you look at it, how do you feel? I know I can't stand it. But, you know, I do see her from time to time. If she comes in, if it's not here, that's a problem. So just to get clear, Mrs. Smith, you're happy to, every time you see that object, it triggers negative feelings for you for the one day a year that this person might see it. Is that worth being there? If you see an object and it doesn't aspire you to be the best version of yourself, then you need to think twice about doing that. It's like, you know, it's really important. Objects in your house, and especially your personal spaces like your bedroom, should reflect the best version of you. They should, when you look at them, inspire you or make you feel good or safe, or, you know, that's so important. But so many of us have objects in our house that we go, oh my God, yeah, I don't like that. And, oh yeah, I got that from that person, I don't talk to them anymore. And, you know, that picture, you know, we really need to give us permission to go, to lift your vibration, and especially to get out of ruminating of negative thoughts. You need, Feng Shui is a fantastic opportunity to wake up and give you the best version of yourself, to get a vision board and go, okay, where am I right now in my life in terms of my career, my health, my relationships, my self-development, my spiritual growth, and where am I not happy? What is the best version of myself? What would be an ideal relationship for me? And then having it on a pinboard, or having that, like, you know, so often people don't realize when a Feng Shui consultant that's trained appropriately can walk in and go, you know, Are you having relationship problems? Yeah, absolutely. And everything about the house tells you they are, but they can't actually see the obvious. So you're giving them permission to think about the best version of themselves, and then creating colors and furniture placement and vision boards to actually manifest that by looking at this and going, okay, what is it going to take for me to create that career? Well, I need to do this course, or I need to, stop making excuses about why I can't move forward, etc. For me, it's like buying, like recently, for the first time, I bought an original painting from an artist and I commissioned her to do it. I really splurged. It was my 50th and a birthday present to myself. And every time I walk into the house, I can see it just above the gas fireplace. And it inspires me. I go, oh my God, I'm home. Oh my God, I'm safe. I'm home. My house feels like organic food. When I walk in, it feels like it's initially just props me up mentally and spiritually. I feel like I've had a shot of vitamin C. And that's what a feng shui home feels like. It reflects the best version of you. It inspires you to be the best you can. It understands that adversity is an important part of the human experience, that we're not here to blame or be victims. We're here to own our shit and to go, this is where we're at, and the feng shui of our house reflects our past. Now, with that vision, we can slowly change things and start decluttering, because our clutter represents our fear. There is not a coincidence that your clutter is in the, southwest sector where you've got marriage problems, for example. It's a reflection. Everything is a reflection of you and the occupants in the home. And a good feng shui consultant can walk in and literally read what's going on. A bad feng shui consultant just goes, put the money frog here and put a whole lot of tacky Chinese objects in the house and wind chimes. And that's not what good feng shui is about. It's about walking into a space that you feel safe, that you feel uplifted, that you feel that you've had a vitality shot, that makes you the best version of yourself, that encourages you to get out of bed. So when you get up in the morning, the first thing you see is something beautiful. We all can't live against the ocean. I certainly don't live near the ocean, but they walk out that I have a beautiful print or painting opposite my bed that inspires me to get out of bed and get out in the world and make something of my life. So this is what we're doing, is going around the house and going, okay, what does this object represent to you? If it doesn't lift you, then you really need to think twice about having it. So do we put it into the op shop? Do we give it to someone who will appreciate it? Do we put it in on Marketplace and sell it off? Or do we actually throw it in the bin? These are the things as part of the process. So I love the feng shui side of things, because you dip into this person's life and you have a brief snapshot of where they're at in their life experiences and go, where do you want to go? This is where you're at. Where do you want to go? And how can we create a space that enhances you to become the best version of yourself? With color, with furniture placement, with decluttering, etc. About 10% of our students do both courses. So, they come in and the client might get them to do one thing like mold, and in the end, you end up doing something completely different, because you have multiple hats you can wear when you're walking into the space. So the 6 subjects are feng shui foundations, create a sacred space. Love that subject. It's very esoteric. It's really looking at the impact of the use of the Wicca and the North American Indian traditions of space clearing. It's being able to identify negative energy on a site and then getting the client to think about, what do you want to bring into your life? What do you want to banish from your life? And then creating an altar. But that altar, depending on your religious beliefs, could be like a cross, could be like the Virgin Mary, or it could be a Buddha, or whatever that is for that client, not the feng shui consultant, but the client, and looking at what that represents to them, and then having items there that inspire them to be the best version of themselves. And writing it down. Some people have never written their affirmations ever, never given them a possibility of actually dreaming about what their best version would be in their career, in their health, in their relationships. They just sort of, by the time they get to middle age, they're resigned to this is the way it's going to be, and it doesn't have to be. So this is where I believe our feng shui graduates can make an amazing difference to people's lives. So space clearing is about honouring that. It's like the old thing, where the priest used to come and bless the house before you moved in. Well, now it's the feng shui consultant coming in before you move in, clearing the negative energy from the previous occupants where they were arguing, all that sort of stuff. Business smarts, again, if you're wanting to make a business out of it, then this is a good one as an elective. Geomancy, again, geomancy, you'll see there's a couple of subjects that are similar in building biology and feng shui. Healthy home. The healthy home subject in feng shui is an introduction to the building biology course, and it looks at how different aspects in the home, just an introduction. You're not a building biologist doing this subject, you're just introduced to the concepts about what, when you're looking at it from a feng shui perspective, that you never put someone near a meter panel. You're never going to put them, you know, near where they're exposed to high electromagnetic fields. You're not testing the house, but you have a visual inspection that you know that there's certain things you shouldn't do when you're doing furniture placement. For more information about that, click the learning guide. They again 6 to 8 page documents on each subject, the outcomes, the aims, and the assessments, so you're very clear what it's about. All our subjects are 12 weeks in duration. 3 of our subjects are online, so you can enroll in those anytime. From the day you start, you then have 12 weeks to submit. You also have access to a trainer, their details, and if you can't access them because they're doing, most of our trainers are working full time, then you can always ring me at the college and I can help you with any questions that you have. All right, so you do need to do some field training. It's only 2 days of field training for the whole course, where we pack in 3 field trips. So you can either do that Melbourne, Gold Coast or Sydney. In order to find out when that training is, click the timetables at the top here, go into the feng shui, and you'll see here the sacred space subject. The next time we're running that subject is the 9th and 10th of October, and there's no prerequisite. So you can enroll in that now. You don't need to do anything beforehand. And then you would tell us whether you're going to do the Melbourne field trip or the Gold Coast field trip. The next geomancy subject is the 16th and 17th of September. The building biologists might choose this one as their elective. And then you either come to Melbourne or Gold Coast to do the field training. With the advanced course, the next one we have is the 23rd and 24th of October. And then the next field trip will be the 31st of October or 7th of November at Melbourne or the Gold Coast. So you'll notice with the field trips, it's 2 consecutive days, and then you've done all the skills field training for that. All right, I think I've pretty much covered all of the course materials, and it's 9:30. You can see here in terms of more information, you just click these boxes, it will take you there. There's a lot more on the testimonials, a lot of videos of the testimonials from our students who work full-time. You know, quite a lot of our building biologists work full-time now. It's not just a part-time course, and, you know, quite a few of them were naturopaths initially, and now they earn a lot more money doing building biology in less than half the time than they ever did as a naturopath. But so that's really it. In order to enroll, you just click the enrollment form here and then go through the enrollment process. This information is required for the government, ASQA, in order to provide the data they require. You'll notice it will ask you for a USI or unique student identifier. This is a fantastic scheme the government implemented about 4 years ago to make sure that any government accredited course, TAFE course or university course you did, that you have an electronic copy of all your certificates and academic transcripts in one place. So it means when you finish, it's all up there, regardless of whether the institution doesn't exist or not. So this is a really good thing. So you just click the enrollment form. In order to start, we do require payment for the first subject. I do like to have a chat with students in terms of when they start the course for the first time, whether it's feng shui or building biology, the order of subjects they may consider, and when they plan to attend the field training, because that will determine when I think, you know, what sort of subjects they should consider. But overall, any online subject you can enroll in as long as it doesn't have a prerequisite. And that's really it in a nutshell. So what I'm going to do is stop share and open it up to questions that you may have.
Hi, Nicole, it's Casey here. How are you going?
Good, thanks, Casey.
Nicole, I'm interested in the mold testing course, and I'm just wondering when we do the field day in September, I think it's the 13th and 14th, if you're in the early stages of pregnancy, is that a problem going in to the home?
Well, I'd ask, is Yeah, generally not, because what we'll do, if we're doing any destructive testing, I will say to you not to come into the room if I'm going to lift up carpet or vinyl. The reality is the homes we're going into are everyday homes. If there's a huge amount of visible mold, I won't do the audit there because it's too much. If the students have to wear full PPE in these homes, then I won't go there. I won't expose them to that level. Most of the homes we go into, and I'm talking 90% that are done as part of field training, there's no visible mold, there's no odor. The client has asthma or allergies or chronic fatigue syndrome, and they're not sure if the house is making them sick. They do get worse when they're there, but they are everyday homes. I would say 40% of the housing stock in this country is this type of home. So I know if you're pregnant, you're already exposed to most of these homes. I mean, I just go to my local post office and it's significantly water damaged. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and you'd need to notify me or the trainer that you are pregnant. I would recommend that you bring a full face respirator, which you should have as part of the course anyway. That is one thing that I need to add to mold testing, full face respirator. In the event that, you know, you're going to be there, if I'm going to peel carpet back, I'll have a full face on. Obviously, I'm not going to, you know, put you in scenarios where you're exposed if we're doing destructive testing. But overall, you're going to walk in the house and go, oh, it's like every other house. Like most of the time, you can't smell anything. There's no visible mold, etc.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. But I would encourage you to get a full face respirator. Once you learn all the information in the course, you're going to be very mindful when you're walking into friends and families' homes. You'll see straight away whether it's problematic. And yes, I would encourage you to not be to be living in a water damaged home, that's for sure, because there's now more evidence that pregnant women that live in water damaged home give birth, have early births. And we're talking, you know, between 28 and 34 weeks, and their children are nourished. So they're very small birth weight. And often they have significant issues like allergies and other things like that later on in life. So, yeah, it's a good question, and you will need to notify us when you're at the field training.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole, what's the maximum amount of time that I can take to finish the Cert 4 in Feng Shui?
2 years.
2 years.
A maximum of 2 years, yep. So you should aim at doing a minimum of 3 subjects a year. And as I said, once you enroll in a online subject, you've got 12 weeks to finish. Then you might have a few weeks off before you get to the next one. That's your call. But generally, it's you've got 2 years to complete it. If you need an extension, then we do have exceptions to that, but we'll normally need either a medical certificate or something like that to extend it. The main thing I want to see when our students finish a course is that their knowledge and skills are up to date by the time we give them their certificates.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Nicole, I have one. Just in terms of, I guess interested in this area, but don't know many people. Don't know anyone who studied in it, and just interested to connect or talk to people who have studied with you and work in the field in Perth, I guess, which is where I live. Is there any way to kind of talk to those people or shadow them for a day and kind of just I don't really know what a career in this area looks like, but I'm so interested and want to learn more.
Sure. On the ASBB website.org.au, there are a list of building biologists. We have 3 in Perth. Diane Hislop is one of our trainers, and she does do the training on behalf of the college in Perth. She's actually paying them to do our course because she's so busy. Piggybacking with a building biologist isn't something we do because you don't know what you don't know, and you're a risk to us because you could expose yourself to hazards, and we have to be mindful because you don't know what you don't know. Do you know what I mean? So it's something we don't encourage our building biologists to do because they're exposing themselves potentially to water damaged molds. It interrupts the flow unless you have that skill set. Like if you've done mold testing and then piggyback with a building biologist for mold testing, fair enough, because you know what you know all the sources, you know the dangers, you know the risk, you know the health and safety, and you have your full face respirator. Whereas piggybacking without that is, I don't encourage that at all. But definitely go onto the ASBB website and ask, ring around and ask them. Deanne Hyslop, as I said, is based in Perth. So is Trin Lee Triel. And of course, Kelly, I believe, is the president of the ASBB. Give her a buzz and talk to her about what members are doing, etc. But yeah, I'll definitely ring around and talk to them about it. Yeah.
Thank you. One more question is, do you need, what's the insurance like, or is there, do you need insurance, I guess, to do this type of work if you diagnose incorrectly?
Yes, absolutely. Look, working for yourself, you need insurance. Public liability malpractice, you'd be crazy not to have insurance no matter what you did. Not that anyone's ever been sued before, because we talk a lot about that, actually. The ASBB has a disclaimer that has gone through a legal process to make sure that, we reduce your litigation. Most of the time litigation happens when there's a misunderstanding. So this is why we encourage all our building biologists during the quote, when the client has accepted the quote and they're going to the house, that they sign off. So just to get clear, Mrs. Smith, I'm here because you have these issues. Now I'm going to let you know this is what I can do and this is what I don't do, and get them to sign off after the interview before they actually conduct the job, to actually reduce that litigation. We talk a lot about that actually in EMF testing and in mold. Be very clear about what your limitations are, because that's, important. As I said, the ASBB have their own legal disclaimer, so you're welcome to use that once you become a practicing member of the ASBB. And of course, you have insurance. Insurances, I believe, are around $1,200, which is extremely cheap, because most people in the building construction industry could be up to 10 grand a year just on insurances. And mold is very litigious, so they've got an amazing rate to protect building biologists. But the main thing is how you write the reports, the templates, which we're very mindful of that we give you in the course, and your language of how you write the reports is also important. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, got a question here. I'm interested in the course, single mum, currently doing home duties. Guess my question is whether after completing the course there is a guarantee of getting work, whether on my own or whether with another established building biologist. Yes, it all depends on you. The people who do the best in this are the ones who don't say no to a job. I've had one of our building biology students who's halfway through the course, who put herself on the mold testing technician on the ASBB, and in the first 2 weeks had 3 jobs. So the ones who do the best are the ones who have a website, they have a platform. Can I guarantee you're going to get work? No, but most of them do hit the ground running really, really well. What I find who does the best is your psychology. If you have a poverty mentality or you're a perfectionist, you're the ones who do the least well. The reason is because you think the report has to be perfect before you can start. So the students who get all the high distinctions are the ones that are the perfectionists that are going, oh no, I can't start because I don't know this and my report's not perfect. They're the ones who never get off the ground. The ones who did pretty well, probably not the best reports, but go, yep, I can do anything and I'm just going to say yes to every job. They're the ones who do well. One of my first building biologists, his first job was doing air sampling at a wind turbine company in Portland in Victoria. It was a $10,000 job. He paid his entire course in the first job, and he had no idea what he's doing. But what he did was he just went to the companies with that sample that hire out all the air sampling equipment that he used in the course, and said, I have no idea what I'm doing. Show me how to set up the sampling pumps. This is how I do it. And the air sampling guys hiring company are really friendly. They're there to help you because they want you to hire their equipment to do the job. He did really and does very well. He's one of the most successful building biologists out there. But he's the one that, he's got a good website, he's got a good presence. So yeah, that's what it takes, like anything. It's like naturopathy. They spend 80 grand on a degree, and if you don't have social media skills and get out there or do public speaking or something, then no one's going to know about you. But this industry is taking off. And I've got quite a few building biologists who are too scared to have a website because they're so busy. And that's just referrals from my website to the ASBB and the ASBB getting out there. So It's definitely, you know, work if you're willing to, you know, have a presence and also be affiliated with the ASBB. I also will list you on the college website. There's a lot of people that go to the college website to find a building biologist, and also on the ASBB website. So that's all I can really answer in relation to that. Okay, I think that's all the questions. Is there a list of alumni in each state who might be able to get in contact with to discuss their experiences? Oh, that's Laura. You've already asked me that question. How much approximately would the equipment cost for mold EMF testing? That's a great question. You are looking at, for mold and EMFs, and look, I'm not completely up to date, but for both of them, you're looking at about $8,000 if you bought all the equipment from scratch. So thermal imaging is about 900, the biopump's about 1100 for the mold testing. You're looking for your 3, you need a Gauss meter and you need 2 high frequency meters. So for EMF testing, you're looking at about $4,000, maybe a little bit more. For mold testing, you're looking at about $3,000 to $4,000 as well. So you're looking at about $8,000 to do the EMF and mold testing. There's a couple of instruments you can use to hire from the ASBB, but overall, I mean, you're charging about, you know, $800 to $1,000 a job. You're going to get this back pretty quick. And look, to be honest, to do that for, you know, a $14,000 course that you're earning that amount, I mean, people doing nutrition courses for $80,000 and struggling to get money. This course you're jumping, you know, you're able, one job, you're earning, you know, $800 to $1,000 or so. So, you know, it doesn't take long to get it, to recoup that cost. Make sure you insure your equipment though, because, you know, it's easily damaged. You don't want to ever hire it. I would never hire my equipment because the Australia Post is likely to damage it, or, you know, if you don't know how to use a high frequency meter and you put the antenna near the phone in the near field, you've just destroyed a $1,000 antenna. So we're going to teach you all about that as well. All right, is insurance available to practice as a feng shui practitioner? I don't know, you'd have to go through the AFSC, the Australasian Feng Shui Society. I believe there are, and you have the International Feng Shui Association as well. So the associations I would go through and ask them about. I believe they do. Great, any other questions before we finish up? One other here, can you get an exemption from the electrical fundamentals subject if you've done a TAFE course in Cert 3 electrical? Absolutely. So as long as you can show, if you're a Class A licensed electrician, you'll definitely get an exemption from electricity fundamentals. If you've done any form of electrical qualifications, then you'll just apply for a recognition of prior learning. So absolutely, I would encourage you to do that. All right, if that's it, thank you very much for hanging in there. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email me or ring us at the college. There's also frequently asked questions on the college website and a lot of information there. To look at the timetable, just click on the timetable for when the on-campus subjects are. And as I said, ask us any questions during business hours, where that's what we're here for. Thank you so much.